the home of inspiration every day.
Most people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful.
From news,
countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus.
Views,
there's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence.
Sports,
What's he say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala.
and music to inspire you every day. This is Vuga Online, your inspiration radio station.
Hi there, and welcome to Healthcare Hour with Colleen Qvist. Thanks so much for all your messages during the week. It's so fascinating to hear from you. And of course, this episode is another amazing guest who's come to join us, who's come to share her lived experience with us. But more about Healthcare Hour with me. You know that it's all about healthcare professionals. It's about us understanding that they're people. They get very tired. And I'm sure our guest is going to share with you just how tired they get. It's also about, you need to have time out of your healthcare environment and what it is that they do in order to ensure mental and physical health. And then, of course, it's about us improving the relationship between the healthcare professional and the patient. And also as patients, because unfortunately at some point we're all going to be patients, it's about us understanding that we need to be informed. We need to have ownership of our own health and our own decisions. So after the break, we're going to meet my guest, but let's go for a break and we'll be back soon.
How do you know the life of personal coach you're about to work with is who they say they are? How do you know if they can do the job? At the Africa Board for Coaching, Consulting and Coaching Psychology, we can tell you. So, before you share your secrets and spend your money, check with us first. Visit www.abccccp.com or call us on 012-751-7608. The ABCCP, the professional body for coaches.
Welcome back. You are listening to Healthcare Hour with Colleen Qvist. And as promised, my fascinating and exciting guest today is Dr. Yashka Singh. Welcome, Yashka. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on the show.
So, Dr. Yashka Singh, tell us all about you.
That's honestly, that is one of the worst questions that I always hate being asked because it's so difficult to describe yourself at times.
Yes, but we've got to teach doctors to be self, you see.
True. Okay, as you said, my name is Yashka. I'm 29 years old. I am currently working it's my 5th year of working since I graduated as a medical doctor. I work in the Northwest province in a little small town, which is a big town actually, but small town vibes, called Klerksdorp. And I work as a registrar in the internal medicine department.
Okay. And what made you decide, let's go and be a doctor?
Truthfully, I don't know if there's ever, if the answer is ever fully truthful or super cliche, growing up, I think I was quite fascinated with biology, human biology especially. And I think one of the careers that we always get put towards, if that is what you're interested in, is medicine. And I think at some point also while I was in school, people often used to, push me and say, so are you going to become a doctor? Are you going to become a doctor? And I think I can't remember exactly when it happened, but something in me just was like, oh yes, yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do when I grow up. And it was quite solid. I think throughout high school, that was my goal. And that's what I worked towards. And I'm really glad that I did because truthfully, I am very, very passionate about what I do. And yeah, I think the initial reasons I did it versus what I would answer now is a bit different. But I think it came from just being interested in the subject matter initially.
So it's not that you grew up in a family of doctors?
No, actually, in my in my immediate family, I'm the only one in healthcare. The rest of them are in the financial, I would say they are the financial industry, and work closely with mostly business related careers.
Yes.
So actually, when I speak about medicine at home, sometimes they're like, "What are you speaking about?"
Yeah,
But yeah,
no, this is not appropriate topic for the the lunch table now. Come now. Yes.
that is exactly it. Even if I bring up blood, it's just not,
Like,
it doesn't
no.
go down very well. But yeah.
But of course, money seems to go with tables and lunch tables. Yeah, but I'm sure you think, no, it doesn't.
Taxes.
Yes. So Yashka, I've of course met you socially and online from a point of view of that you're quite verbal about what doctors experience. And we get, through your posts, we also get to have an inside look into, but what does the doctor experience?
Mhm.
And for me, who's a coach, I'm also and work with healthcare professionals, I'm very passionate about what can we do, when the flower's not growing, when the flower's not surviving or thriving. We don't run around and say, okay, that's it, this flower has failed. We look to see, well, what's happening in the environment. I've also heard it saying, like, let's take away everything that ensures that the flower will thrive. Let's take away everything that is making sure that it doesn't thrive. So give
Mm.
us that, little window into what it's like to be a doctor. I know you're a registrar and you said that you've been working 5 years since you qualified.
Yes. So I started off my career, the most junior years was in the first year of the COVID pandemic was my first year of working. So, it was one of those surreal experiences. Sometimes I think a lot of that we experienced during that time was suppressed. I'd say outside of that whole pandemic that happened, medicine is just a high stress environment. It's emotionally demanding. It's mentally challenging, where we're often expected to make really critical decisions. It's something that you're doing every single day you're at work. And of course, we are expected to make these decisions currently as I work in state. It's often in settings that are extremely resource limited. And as you keep saying, like the flower in that toxic environment or what type of environment it's already a high stakes environment most of the time. And I find that the fact that we're in these limited resource setting with this emotional burden for us, for our patients, our families, it can be a really difficult place to thrive, unless you really, really have to actively avoid that burnout. And that's why I'm quite verbal about it, because I think that we're often worried to speak up about it.
Yes, and that's what I find refreshing about you is that you do speak up and you do say this is personal, but it should be personal to all of us. Yeah, and what also it still fascinates me that, healthcare um, of all places should know what it's like to operate and to, you've got resource limited, you've got, emotionally, physically, mentally exhausted, and yet you must make these huge decisions and have people's lives at your fingertips, literally.
Exactly. And I think there needs to be a culture shift on basically how people view mental health in medicine, and that thing that we spoke about outside, about how people will always say, "Oh, this is how I went through it, so
Yes.
you should do
But
it
I
too."
survived
You
it.
know,
What's wrong with you?
exactly. And then
Yes.
nothing's ever going to change if we keep perpetuating that stigma.
Yeah. And also, it's almost like you find that older generations have got we battled to earn our stripes there kind of story, and now you want it easy. No, we're going to make it
Yeah.
triple what I had. And I survived. What are you? Are you like a little snowflake? Doctors of today are snowflakes. Um, and yes, as you say, it just perpetuates and it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah, almost sometimes you feel like there's no empathy from the people who should understand the most what you are going through at
Yes.
that specific
Yeah.
time.
And I know when the public sees, for instance, how many hours you work, and, like they go like, but how? How? So for instance, I know that you are post-call or you finished your shift. Okay. So what for you, how many hours is that as a registrar?
Okay, I just recently started my post as a registrar, but
Yes.
I was working as a medical officer before, but my hours are pretty much along the same thing. It doesn't sound real sometimes when I speak about it, but we go start our morning meeting at 7:45 in the morning. Get allocated to, a specific area for the day, and that's usually until 4 p.m. From 4 p.m., you are then on call. So, depending on whatever whatever department you're working in, you will then go to wherever the call is for the night. So we have an admission ward. That will be from 4 p.m. up until 7:45 the next morning. That is your call duty. From there, you then return to your normal day duties. Usually, you still have to present all these patients to the specialist, depending on the setting that you're in again, or have what we call a post intake type of round. But because of short staffing and also just because of the things that are expected of you as a doctor, after that, you then must still go back to your normal day duties and work until a certain time. So, I
Yes.
mean, for most junior doctors, that post call time is supposed to be 10 a.m. Reality on the floor is not the same. Most times you will leave way later than that. And where I work at the moment, our post call time is 1 p.m. So we still work till the next day until 1 p.m. But again, you cannot always leave at that time. Today, for example, I also left at 2:30, so it's an hour and a half more than that. On my last call, I left at 3 o'clock. I basically just worked another full day, and yeah, that's what a call and post call can look like. Next day, start back again,
Not again.
up until your next call. So by the time you recover, it's already time to do it again.
Yes. So in that, you're looking at what, 30, 36 hours of just normal.
Yes, exactly that.
Okay. And then we wonder why mistakes are made.
The only thing that staying up that long is good for is that I can last long on a night out, but I don't think that is supposed to be. I
No,
don't
then
think
the
that is good for
adrenaline drops and
patients
you go,
ever.
phew, and there you are,
Yeah,
asleep in your cocktail.
and
Yeah,
exactly that. Or sleeping through alarms. Yep.
yes. We won't talk about sleeping through alarms. Okay, let's go for a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the environment. But let's go for a break.
The home of inspiration every day.
Most people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful.
From news,
Countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus.
views,
There's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence.
sports,
What's he say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala.
and music to inspire you every day. This is Vuga Online, your inspiration radio station.
Welcome back. You are listening to Healthcare Hour with Colleen Qvist. My guest today is Dr. Yashka Singh, and she is I suppose not a junior doctor anymore. She's a registrar, although she's a young doctor. And she works in a small little town called Klerksdorp, and yes, has been doing so for 5 years since she qualified. And she's just been talking to us about, routine 30, 36 hours. And, on paper, it might be, okay, now you leave. But what you're also finding is that when the resource is not there for you to hand over to, or the patient hasn't gone to somebody else, you can't just say, I'm out of here, and off you go.
Exactly that. Lots of moral responsibility, I think, in this
Yes.
career that will prevent that. Yes.
But you know what? I know that you've also spoken about with moral responsibility. Unfortunately, moral responsibility often is to everyone else and not to yourself. And so you're also seeing as well is that it's almost like the more you can, the more you expect it to. And what kind of doctor would go home now and leave their patients? So
Exactly
there's
that.
guilt. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think with that being said, it feels like you're going from baseline. It is already always a high stress environment. We are dealing with people, their
Yes.
lives. We're dealing with people at their most vulnerable stages. And I think that a lot of responsibility obviously comes to us, but that is part of the career. I think what makes it worse is going from maybe one traumatic event to another without even space to process. Like you can lose a patient, and 2 minutes later, the nurse is telling you, Doc, there's still 10 patients in line. Come, we need to,
Oh,
we
come
need to
now.
move. No
Yes.
minute, not even a minute to maybe grieve or debrief as we see them do on TV. I think sometimes in reality, it's not even there. And it's an emotional backlog, physical backlog. So it can be quite tough, yes.
And of course, with you starting off, during those COVID years, it's almost like a baptism of fire.
Honestly, my friends and I speak about it all the time, and we feel that, these things manifested in our lives later as maybe in some of us as detachment, even depression, because it was honestly, as a healthcare worker, that was a really tough time. It was tough for people who are not in the healthcare industry. Lockdown was, eh, I'm sure even your listeners will remember those
Yes.
times. It was a tough time all throughout. No one knew what was happening in the world. It was a scary time, baseline. Being a healthcare worker, being surrounded by death on the daily, people not taking this disease seriously, people not abiding by rules, but also just watching it happen in front of you as a junior doctor, not knowing where you're going. I think it really was trial by fire is a really good way to put it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think also in that, because it was your formative years of, this is how we do things. It's almost like that very strange time became normal for you. Well, this is normal. This is my everyday.
Yes. And I think we normalized it so much that we didn't actually think about what we went through in those times
Yeah.
and how it shaped our view on life actually.
Mm. But also in that, we have this idea, but doctors are tough people. All healthcare professionals are tough, and also you've signed up, this is the job, come on now. But we also need to understand that resilience and ability to bounce is not, it's not limitless. It's not infinite.
Exactly. I think what we often forget is that actually doctors or healthcare, I'll say healthcare workers, but I'm speaking on behalf of doctors, are the most essential resource in healthcare because we are the ones who are going to be making the decisions. And when we do not have that time to have self-care or deal with these things appropriately and avoid things like burnout, mental fatigue, moral fatigue as well, these don't just harm us, they have a knock-on effect and
Yeah.
eventually harm our patients as well. And that I think is the thing that I wish would change, especially the thought that, giving doctors time to maybe be present or thoughtful, to not be looked at being soft. It must be
Yes.
looked at the norm, I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, we're talking about a system that is not optimal. Okay. And I know South African doctors do an amazing job. And, not one nanosecond of feeling that they don't. But it's also about saying, okay, so from a system where we're glorifying survival, we're glorifying that whole conveyor belt of 36 hours, go home, come back again. Guess what? 36 hours, go home, come back again. And it's like, yay, look at me, how wonderful. And yes, self-care is in the doctor's pledge, but it's pointless having it in words if it's not an action.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
then saying, okay, Dr. Yashka, you must self-care. Well, where? Where in this 36 hours was I supposed to self-care?
Honestly, I mean, when I think of calls and night shifts and stuff, yes, we get through them. But if I look back on it, there's time pressure. I feel like you are constantly working in survival mode. Sometimes you don't have time to eat, you delay your snacks. As a side note for today, I mean, I also didn't have that much time to, eat properly and everything on call. And I visited my parents for the weekend, so my mom made me some food for call, which I was really excited to have. So I sent it to her only today when I came home, and instead of just to say, thanks, this food is delicious, post call. And her first reply, which I didn't even think about, she's like, "Oh my word, you were supposed to eat that at work." And I just said, honestly, just didn't get down to it.
No time. Yes.
So yeah, I think it can end up being quite a race. It kind of feel like you're always in a race, never
Yes.
reaching the finishing line.
Yeah, so just on that as well, it's quite hard for parents. It's quite hard for mummies when they're looking after you. Have you eaten your breakfast? Have you had your lunch? Did you drink water? Have you been to the loo? Because mummies don't change, just because you're now old. But it's like, no, well, mom, I haven't had breakfast. I haven't had lunch. I haven't gone to the loo. And no, I don't know what a glass of water is.
Yeah, and I mean it just also has a knock-on effect. Your sleep cycle's messed up for the next few days. You're basically quite unhealthy, fatigue, the errors that come with being tired.
Mm.
Um, I do think, yeah, I'm sure my family sometimes is also a bit concerned about it.
Yeah, no, I've spoken to lots of mummies of doctors, and
Mm,
also seeing as well, like, well, what can you do?
mm,
And it's also, often you powerless in saying, okay, we'll eat now. But, it can't be like, open your lunchbox, sit down, and now we'll eat. It
mm,
doesn't work like that in a hugely under-resourced environment where you've got to run from one to the next.
yeah.
Mm.
Just taught to push through everything and, as they
Yeah.
say, be resilient and endure.
But we're also then normalizing the pain of, well, this is just the way it is. So this is day to day kind of story. And then also what happens when someone says, I need help or I'm not coping, then people say, no, but come on now. This is the normal life of a doctor.
Yeah, I think that's the
And
the
I think
the,
we just
the
lost Jessica there.
oh
Yes, we just lost you momentarily. Yes.
apologies. Yes, yes. I say we were just saying sorry. Where were we at?
Okay. So we were just saying as well that um we normalizing the pain of it, of that it's just like normal. And that
Yeah,
when you saying, oh, I'm reaching out, I need help, I'm not coping, I need to sleep, I need to something, I'm hungry. Well, I assume you even lose contact with the idea of being hungry. But when we do that, then it's also like, come on now, you're failing, as opposed to, no, I'm being normal, I'm being real.
of course. I think there's that culture of fear of you have to be perfect and you just have to deal with something like this. And if you show any sign that you actually want to approach the situation and say, hang on a second, guys, this is actually not good for our patients, this is not good for the work that we do, and this is not good for us in the long term, it is always met with that response of, this is how it always is. This is just the way things are. You just have to learn to be strong and push through. And yes, I agree that we do have to have some level of resilience. It comes with the career, but we shouldn't normalize that, being or wanting something better is not a
Yes.
bad thing. It's actually going to be good and better for the people who are receiving the care at the end
Yes.
of the day, if the people who are providing the care are at their most optimal.
Yeah.
And I feel that that's the most difficult part, because if there's any signs that that a doctor shows that they may be struggling a bit mentally or things like that, it's more often met with hostility rather than something, actual viable solutions to try and get out of that. And what we end up doing is rather speaking about it retrospectively. What could we have done better? Almost like
Yes.
a
But
morbidity and mortality
how
of the
did I end up
situation.
in? How did I
Yes,
end up in, burnout? How did I end up in
when
depression?
the signs have been there the whole
Yes.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, and also just before I go to, we go for a break. It's also
Mm.
about, it's the reality that the suicide rate amongst doctors is double that of the population. So, death by
No,
suicide is a reality.
it really is. And I think almost every year since I've been working, and even if I think back to university, there has been a story somewhere of someone who unfortunately passed away by suicide. And I do, of course, it might be multifactorial, but a lot of it is related to work.
Mm. Okay, so on that somber note, let's go for a break. When we come back, we're going to go, what can we do about it? But let's go for a break.
The Africa Center for Work-Based Learning is a professional development center for professionals who aim to improve their professional standing. This means that the learning programs we run are more than just academic programs. They are work-based programs that focus on leveraging your current experience as a professional to build your overall profile. A year down the line, the Africa Center for Work-Based Learning is developing into a preferred center for professional development in Pretoria, with 8 professional development faculties including accounting, teaching, entrepreneurship, as well as IT and many more. For more information, go to acwbl.org or dial +27 12 751 7608. The Africa Center for Work-Based Learning, where work is learning.
Welcome back. You are listening to Healthcare Hour with Colleen Qvist. My guest today, Dr. Yashka Singh, has been sharing with us the life of a doctor. She has just come off post-call. So, yes, she managed to get a nap and then managed to sleep through her alarm. So we know all about sleep deprivation with mean Colleen here phoning her to say, hey, wake up. Yes, but we have also seen how difficult it is. Now, we know that the suicide rate is double that of the normal population. Of course, doctors have got access to methods for suicide, and they probably have got more access than the general population. But we know the problems. We know the 36 hours. We know the no eating, the no sleeping, the no going to bathroom breaks. We know how it impacts the body. But we also know that we're living in a country where we've got under-resourced, we have problems with, and so it's all like just everything just impacts something, it just like, what's the word? Yes, one thing leads to the next. But for so long now, we've identified what the problem is, but where are the solutions?
So I think that is the thing that I am trying to work towards is I think that we've got the advocacy there, and now advocacy needs to meet action. We need thoughtful solutions. We need structural change. at a multidisciplinary level, should I say. And we need good leadership and people to take us into these things. We need things that need to change at a system level, things that need to change at team levels, things that we need to do personally to try and change it. But it requires action. And I think that that's where we're lacking. There's a lot of advocacy there for this change. There's a lot of awareness, as you said, but no structural reform to meet that. And that's where I think we need to go.
Yes. So I have seen, over the years where you're finding that people were like identifying, oh, let's do research. Let's look to see, there's plenty of research done. And as you say, now there's the advocacy. There are the people holding the placards, standing in the passage saying you should be asleep, okay, or we should be asleep. But we don't change the system. So it's a bit like sending somebody to the rah-rah camp of, yay, we're going to change it. And then on Monday, you go back to the mine with the same conditions.
100%, there's always the word short-staffed has become a part of my everyday vocabulary. I don't think I've worked a day where
Yes.
I have not heard we're short-staffed,
And
And
therefore, go
my
fetch
question
the
is always,
patient.
well, what are we doing about that? Why are
Yes.
we not properly advocating and actioning safe patient to doctor ratios? Number one.
Yes.
Not one doctor to maybe 10 times the amount of patients that they should be seeing. And,
Yeah.
then allowing doctors to be able to have that level of care with their patient, better clinical decision making. And the second thing is, with all of these issues, structural issues specifically, we are more focused on things that are not just clinical work. I have to think about, oops, the porters are not enough either, short-staffed. Let me push the patient wherever they need to go.
Yes.
In that time when I'm pushing the patient, no one is seeing my patients.
Yeah.
Oh, there's nobody to do this job. Okay, I guess that is my role to step in. So I
Yeah.
really think there needs to be actual actionable change on that, and just need the correct people to get into leadership roles to make it happen.
Yeah, I remember years ago, a surgeon calculating, okay, how long would it take to get the patient from the ward to the theatre? No, it would take too long. We can't do the procedure today. But as you said, there was the porter to go fetch the patient. It's like when you go, no, I've now got to run out the theatre in my scrubs to go fetch the patient to make sure that we can now have a patient. What I am seeing though, Yashka, is that the younger generation are different. And I've been very encouraged of that they are looking for balance. They are seeking balance. They are demanding balance. Or that integration of, you're not, what are you? I'm a doctor. Full stop. It's like, no, I'm not just a doctor. It's like I'm a wife, I'm a mommy, I'm a this, I'm an author, I'm an entrepreneur, and like for instance, I know for you, like you're a dancer and you've won lots of awards. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes. So well done to you that you are doing something to make sure that you're not, I'm a doctor, full stop.
Yeah, I think what you say, I also respect I've noticed it in the more junior doctors to me, like the newer set of interns and stuff, that they are getting better at setting boundaries. A lot of them are actually standing up against unreasonable expectations and saying, look, our mental health matters too. And us as the older colleagues and even the people who are much, much more senior and experienced than me, they sometimes look at these people and, say, oh, the young
The
people
youth
these
of
days, they don't
today.
make them like they used to. But
Yes.
honestly, I feel like we can learn a lot from them.
Yeah.
Some of them who say, no, when the hospital calls me after hours and I'm not the person on duty, I will not answer my phone because actually I need to step away from that
Yes.
sometimes. There should be someone on the hospital property who is going to deal with that. I should not have to take that extra, work home with me. Of course, exceptional circumstances, but it should not be the norm.
Yeah.
There are, a couple of times where I remember some junior doctors saying to people, okay, well, I know that the clinic is busy, but I'm going to go and take a lunch break. And, there'll be chatter like, oh, how could he or she take lunch? Look
Yeah.
at this, like 20 patients waiting. But I started respecting those people more and thinking, you know what, actually, it's not wrong for
Yeah.
me to say, hey, can I just go and take 15 minutes to go and eat quickly? Because I am still a human being at the end of the day. So I think that for me, you have to look at some personal strategies to do it. I like, as you mentioned, yes, I do outside of work. I try to maximize, things that improve my mental health so that I can carry myself better in
So
this
you can
this
go back
environment.
tomorrow and do your 36-hour shift. Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think also we need to change the narrative of saying, what kind of doctor leaves a hospital? What kind of doctor has lunch? What kind of doctor is now drinking coffee? Well, a doctor who actually wants to treat his patients or her patients for longer than a day.
Most definitely. Exactly. We need to change the narrative to say that wanting those things and wanting better for yourself is
Yes.
not selfish. In the long
No.
run, it's going to benefit
Yeah.
the healthcare system.
Yeah. And then before we close as well, Yashka, it's about encouraging all these young doctors who are doing it differently. And I've been so encouraged and so inspired to see how differently you're doing it and how well people are thriving in it. But it's also just to say, when you're saying, oh, we're looking for leadership, it's just about encouraging people to say, you know what, the leadership is in you. Be the leadership that the country needs.
That is so true. As you mentioned that we met on social media via my post. Honestly, the first time when I made that post, I didn't expect it to gain such traction. I was just speaking up about, my thoughts and the things that I felt, were happening. And then I realized after the engagement that I got on that post that it's so important that we start speaking up about it more so that we can get that actionable change.
Yes.
We need to stop being scared of potential victimization, or being labeled as not coping. I'd rather be labeled as someone who was taking a stand against these issues where they do
Yes.
exist. And rather than it being considered unprofessional, I want it to be seen as saying, I'm not going to normalize this because
Yes.
my silence and normalizing it actually has a human cost on the end of it.
Yeah.
And I think that that human cost is not just our patients. We spoke about suicide rates amongst doctors. It's also cost to ourselves, and we need to really, really change that in order to make it safer. I think it also, now seen it firsthand via those posts that, speaking up about it also makes people, more open to coming together and then working as a group towards changing this environment. And I
Yes.
think being honest about that is going to hopefully change things slowly, but with, good impact at the end.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me. And I really would like to celebrate with you and also to encourage all your colleagues to take up the idea that this toxic environment stops with you because we can stop it. We can stop it in your generation of enough, no more.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about it. And yes, I really, really do hope that things start to change. And I'm making a commitment to say that I am going to do my best to
Yes.
change it for myself and seek help where needed and help others wherever I can.
Yeah. So that whole idea of it stops with me.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so thank you. We shall be talking to you as well another time when you come to visit us, but thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much again.
Yes. Okay, so you've been listening to Healthcare Hour with Colleen Qvist. Thank you very much to Dr. Yashka Singh, who came out of her final sleep. So please go back to sleep now. Yes. And please remember that you're loved, you matter, and you're not alone. And we'll see you next week.
The home of inspiration every day.
Most people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful.
From news,
Countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus.
views,
There's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence.
sports,
What's he say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala.
and music to inspire you every day. This is Vuga Online, your inspiration radio station.